Imagine waking up in a world where the man who survived 9 bullets is now collecting gold-plated industry statues, while his enemies are literally getting locked out of their own recording studios. Yes, you heard that right. The hip-hop universe has officially dissolved into absolute, unadulterated madness, and at the absolute center of this cosmic storm is none other than Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. While the entire internet spent the last few months screaming, crying, and throwing absolute tantrums over his highly controversial Netflix documentary Sean Combs, The Reckoning 50 was quietly playing 4D chess behind the scenes. Did he just pull off the greatest corporate hustle in the history of entertainment, or has the system completely rigged the game to reward the ultimate king of petty? Critics swore this documentary would destroy his legacy, that targeting another black mogul would alienate his core audience, and that the backlash would ruin his massive media empire. But instead of facing cancellation, the universe just handed him 3 primetime Emmy nominations. Let that sink in. 3. While his rivals are dropping low-budget diss tracks that clear barely a few thousand views, 50 Cent is preparing a tuxedo for the red carpet. But wait, the plot thickens. As 50 celebrates this monumental industry flex, a brand new, incredibly messy psychological warfare campaign has erupted between him, rap veteran Papoose, and undisputed boxing champion Claressa Shields. Is this a legitimate battle for respect? Or is 50 Cent orchestrating a massive multi-layered media distraction to mask something far more sinister? Grab your popcorn, lock your doors, and stay glued to your screen, because we are about to blow the lid off the wildest, most calculated cover-up in pop culture history. The mainstream media wants you to believe that 50 Cent's sudden ascension to the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood prestige is just a natural byproduct of good television production and high viewership numbers. They want you to sit back, consume the headlines, and accept the narrative that a 3-time Emmy nomination for a documentary exposing the dark, hidden underbelly of the music industry is just standard entertainment business as usual. But if you have been paying attention to the sheer timing of these events, you know that nothing in the entertainment industry happens by pure coincidence. We are witnessing the ultimate weaponization of the attention economy, a masterclass in corporate warfare disguised as reality television and social media petty feuds. To truly understand the magnitude of the scandal currently unfolding right before our eyes, we have to peel back the layers of a timeline that feels less like real life and more like a highly coordinated Hollywood thriller. It all started toward the tail end of last year when whispers began circulating through the highest corridors of power in Los Angeles and New York that a definitive, explosive expose was being put together behind closed doors. The subject was none other than one of the most powerful, protected, and feared figures in the history of modern music, a man whose influence spanned decades and whose downfall is currently shaking the very foundations of global pop culture. Everyone assumed that when the hammer finally dropped, it would come from a traditional news network or a major governmental investigative body. Instead, the man holding the gavel was a rapper from South Jamaica, Queens, who has spent the last 20 years turning corporate spite into a multi-billion-dollar art form. When it was officially announced that 50 Cent was serving as the mastermind executive producer behind Netflix's most volatile docuseries to date, the entire industry went into an immediate, collective state of panic. The elite did not fear the documentary because they thought it would be poorly made. They feared it because they knew 50 Cent is a man who does not stop until he achieves total, unconditional capitulation from his targets. The moment the series dropped, it did not just trend. It completely broke the algorithms, climbing to the absolute #1 spot across dozens of countries simultaneously, dominating the cultural conversation for weeks on end, and pulling in unprecedented viewership metrics that left seasoned television executives staring at their datasheets in absolute disbelief. Yet, even as millions of people binged the episodes in a state of collective shock, a highly vocal faction of high-profile public figures began emerging from the shadows to actively discredit the project. The narrative they tried to push was incredibly specific and deeply psychological. They did not attack the factual accuracy of the allegations presented in the documentary. Instead, they attempted to weaponize identity politics against 50 Cent himself. Figures like Marlon Wayans publicly stepped into the arena, aggressively questioning why high-profile black men were constantly being systematically torn down in the public square, suggesting that 50 Cent was acting as a willing tool for a larger, unseen corporate machine designed to dismantle urban music royalty. This immediately sparked a vicious, multi-week digital war between Wayans and Jackson, A conflict so intense that industry insiders report major boardroom meetings were disrupted because executives feared the collateral damage would ruin upcoming multimedia deals worth tens of millions of dollars. The tension only supposedly cooled down after the legendary Wayans brothers themselves had to step in behind the scenes, allegedly staging an emergency intervention to remind everyone involved that they had massive, multifaceted business empires on the horizon that could not afford to be burned to the ground by unnecessary, highly volatile internet drama. Marlon eventually dropped the public insults, put away the nicknames, and seemingly made peace with the G-Unit mogul, but the underlying damage to the industry's facade had already been done. The floodgates had opened, and soon a parade of old-school industry titans began stepping up to the microphone to echo the exact same anti-documentary sentiment. Dame Dash made highly publicized appearances suggesting the documentary crossed a sacred line of industry brotherhood, arguing that it unfairly singled out one individual, while completely ignoring the wider, systemic corruption that has plagued Hollywood for generations. Then came T.I., whose long-standing passive-aggressive rivalry with 50 Cent suddenly mutated into a bizarre, highly theatrical public spectacle involving hypothetical rap battles that never had any realistic chance of happening. For weeks, the public was subjected to an endless cycle of diss tracks, tense radio interviews, and promotional live performances where T.I. managed to brilliantly pivot the massive media spotlight away from the documentary's dark revelations and directly onto his own personal brand, raising serious questions about whether certain elements of the rap elite were actively colluding to create massive smokescreens to protect the status quo. The pushback reached a boiling point when a collective of New York rap veterans, including Cameron, Jim Jones, and a prominent podcasting circle, openly demanded to know why the global media apparatus was focusing all of its investigative energy on this specific hip-hop controversy while global, elite predators like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein were allowed to operate in relative media silence for decades. It was a calculated rhetorical move designed to make 50 Cent look like a hypocritical opportunist rather than a crusader for truth. But what these industry veterans failed to realize is that you cannot play checkers with a man who views the entire physical world as a giant corporate chessboard. Instead of engaging in a traditional, predictable rap beef filled with Instagram rants and standard radio disses, 50 Cent allegedly executed a move so diabolical, so financially ruthless, that it completely redefined the parameters of modern celebrity warfare. Rumors began exploding through the urban entertainment capital that the very building where this rival podcasting crew filmed their daily shows, the literal physical space where they sat behind microphones to discredit 50 Cent's Netflix documentary, had just been quietly, legally purchased by an anonymous corporate entity. Within days, the terrifying reality set in for these commentators. They had not silenced 50 Cent, they had accidentally made him their literal corporate landlord. The psychological fallout from this alleged financial takeover was almost instantaneous and incredibly chaotic to watch play out in real time. Millions of regular viewers began noticing an immediate, highly suspicious drop-off in the quality of the rival podcast's production value. Bizarre technical glitches began plaguing the broadcasts, audio feeds cut out randomly, and the hosts themselves began openly, bitterly complaining on hot mics about the absolutely freezing, unlivable conditions inside their own studio space, claiming the heating system had been mysteriously adjusted to sub-zero temperatures. The internet went into absolute meltdown when a viral video surfaced showing a frantic, visibly agitated Jim Jones trying to physically force his way into the recording facility after security access codes were abruptly changed without warning, completely disrupting their filming schedule and exposing a massive, humiliating vulnerability in their operation. In a desperate bid to reclaim their dignity and fight back against this overwhelming corporate pressure, local rap figures like Fabulous and various affiliated media personalities launched a barrage of aggressive lyrical diss records directly targeted at 50 Cent's character, hoping to bait the mogul back down into the trenches of a traditional hip-hop street fight. But the man who once built his entire career on lethal, relentless musical warfare didn't even bother to step into the recording booth. He completely ignored the lyrical challenges, choosing instead to sit back in his high-end corporate offices, sipping his luxury champagne brand, and letting the chaotic algorithms of the internet completely dismantle his critics' relevance for him, while he kept his eyes firmly fixed on a much larger, global prize that would soon leave the entire hip-hop community completely speechless. But just when the public thought the drama had reached its natural peak, An ancient, deeply personal feud from the mid-2000s suddenly resurfaced with a level of ferocity